Okay, so we are live. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Sorry, we were a bit delayed with the technical issues, but we are glad that we could make it. So sorry for the delay. And welcome to our Gift of Health Wellness Chats. And today my guest is Sid Notter. And as you know that we are running this health bundle, today is the fourth day of Vegan Health Bundle. And if you guys are wondering what is this bundle is a collection. I mean, I would say like if you have been waiting for the best plant-based deal of the year, this is it. This vegan health bundle is actually packed with over 80 brand new resources from top plant based doctors, chefs, raw food experts, fitness pros, lifestyle coaches. And guess what? If you need to buy all these resources individually, it will actually cost you more than $5,000. But just for this week, until March 10th, it's only for $49. And today, my guest is Sid Notter. She is a Center for Nutrition Studies plant based certified professional. She's also a licensed Food for Life instructor for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and an award winning author for the Plan A Diet. Actually, she offered this Plan A Diet book last year, bundle resource. But I know, like, if you were not able to take last year, like, highly recommend that you take this year's bundle because it has a lot of wonderful resources, including SIDS. And with decades of experience in nutrition coaching, health education, and dietary therapy courses like the Start Solution and Food Over Medicine, Sid will actually share her top strategies to decode food labels and avoid hidden pitfalls in packaged foods. So, welcome, Sid, and we are so excited that you're here.
Thank you, Dr. Shobha. I'm excited to be here too.
Yes. So, what we will be doing, guys, is we will be sharing a PowerPoint presentation. So, like, I will be sharing my screen um, for the presentation. And let me just make sure. Okay. So hopefully, just give us a thumbs up if you are able to see the shared screen so that we know that you guys are able to see it. And so Sid, are you able to see the screen as well?
No, I'm seeing your desktop.
Oh, just the desktop.
Mhm.
Let me share it again. Okay. Are you okay? You're able to see the screen. Excellent. Okay. So we are good then. So so Sid, the floor is yours, and you can go ahead.
All right, Dr. Shobha, thank you. You can go ahead and advance to that next screen if you'd like. So today we're going to be talking about processed foods. You may know that ultra processed foods have been a hot topic lately in a lot of different media outlets and so forth. And so, are all processed foods unhealthy? And the next slide says, no, they are not. There are many acceptable things that we can buy at the store, packaged foods. You see some of them listed there. Next slide, please. The term processed, what does that actually mean? It refers to anything that changes the food from its original form. And the USDA lists that as anything that's been crushed, cut, chopped, diced, sliced, blended. And we process foods all the time in our kitchens, don't we? With our food processors and our blenders and our stoves. So just because a food is processed does not necessarily mean it's bad for us.
Mhm.
However, the more processed a food is, the more health risks it poses. So let's take a look at some of the differences. So minimally processed foods are processed at their peak freshness in order to lock in that quality and freshness. And those foods typically get a green light. And then we move up the spectrum to processed foods, which are foods that have been altered in some way or fortified with various nutrients or things like oils and sweeteners and preservatives. Those foods get a yellow light until we read the label to know for sure. And then we have the ultra processed foods, which have significantly changed the makeup of the original food. Sometimes they're not even food anymore, but these foods have been altered to include fats and sugars and dyes and lots of additives and preservatives. Those foods definitely get a red light. So, how much of these ultra processed foods, or UPFs for short, how much are we eating? Well, nearly 75% of the foods in our grocery stores here in the United States are ultra processed foods. And the US is currently ranked as the top consumer, with the UK and Canada close behind. UPFs now comprise 58% of the calories consumed in the United States. So think about that for a second. Nearly 60% of our calories are coming from these ultra processed foods. And that is a huge number. But even more disturbing, a study by Tufts University looked at nearly 34,000 kids, and they found that their intake of UPFs has jumped to 67% of their calories. And that was in 2018. So that was several years ago. All right, let's go on to how these UPFs are impacting our health. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because all of this information is in my course, which is included in the bundle that Dr. Shobha was telling you about at the start. Now, label reading can be confusing. That's why I think many consumers don't really even pay much attention. Often the labels are very misleading too. So I just want to tell you that my goal here is not to tell you what to buy or what to not buy, but merely to inform you so that you can make your own good decisions at the store. So the first tip is to ignore the crafty claims on the box. Packaged foods are some of the most deceptive foods out there, and you would be surprised at how many products that are labeled as healthy are actually filled with junk ingredients. Manufacturers also put misleading health claims on there to try to lure us into purchasing their products. And they know what types of diets are trending too. Like you'll see keto friendly on a lot of products because they know that keto is popular and they try to take advantage of that. So the course goes into detail about these deceptive claims. And even if a product says organic, that does not necessarily mean the nutritional content is healthy, because whether it's organic or not, a cookie is still a cookie, right? And can still be filled with a lot of added fats and sugars. So we look at several of these claims in the course and what to look out for. Okay, next would be a typical example of a label. And this one here is for a breakfast cereal. Labels are broken typically into two sections: the nutrition facts box, which is inside that box, and the ingredient list. And these two sections can be positioned differently on various products. Sometimes they're not even next to each other. But the best way to evaluate a product is always to read the ingredient list first. And often you'll have to go no further to know if the product is acceptable. So ingredients are listed in order by weight. Excuse me, here you see, excuse me again. Let me take a sip. Here you see wheat flour being the most predominant ingredient in this breakfast cereal, followed then in descending order by the other ingredients, which are listed in smaller weight amounts. So a product contains more of the first ingredients and less of the products at the end of the list. So here again, we see that the first ingredient in this cereal is wheat flour, highlighted there in yellow, followed by unsalted butter, which is highlighted in blue, and then it goes on to show brown sugar, white sugar, all the way down to cinnamon. So we really need to look no further than the first two ingredients to know that this item is not really compliant with a healthy diet. The first two ingredients are refined flour and dairy. So in the class, you will learn how to spot refined flours versus whole grain flours, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But the ingredient list should always be the first place we look. So let's talk about sugars. In the course, all of these topics are in its own separate lesson so that you can pick and choose which ones you would like to review first. So Americans are typically eating between 20 and 22 teaspoons of added sugars per day. That is about 60 pounds a year. So that would be like someone bringing a 5-pound bag of sugar to your doorstep every month and expecting you to eat that, right? You'd probably be astonished, but that's what Americans are consuming. So this lesson explains the difference between refined sugars and natural sugars, and we'll discuss some of the negative health results that occur from these inflammatory refined sugars. We'll talk about products that contain the most sugar. And for those who are not following an SOS-free diet, which stands for sugar, oil, and salt free, then if you're not following that type of plan, then to what degree should we limit our sugar intake? And we'll talk about the recommendations from the American Heart Association and Harvard Health. You'll also learn how to quickly tell how much sugar is in a product and different ways that sugars can be listed in an ingredient list. We'll also talk about why manufacturers often use many types of sugar in one product. And I'll show you a cereal that has 12 different types of sugars. Some of the products that we examine in the course include a Smucker's Natural Jelly, Soda Pop, and Bobo's Strawberry Stuffed Oat Bite, just to name a few. So then there's a lesson on oils and added fats, and we do need some dietary fat.
We are not able to hear you, Sid. We are not able to hear you, Sid. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, there we go. Now we are able to hear. So we just lost your audio for a second. So I'm again going to share my screen. Just wanted to let you know that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Where did we left off at added fats?
Yeah, added. So oils and added fats. Yeah, you can
Right.
start here. Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. So there is a lesson in the course on added fats and oils, and we do need some dietary fat to support healthy body functions. But how much do we actually need? Well, the lifestyle medicine doctors that we typically follow, they advocate for around 10 to 15% of our calories to come from fat. The American Cancer Society says 20%, and the World Health Organization advocates for 15%. So let's shoot for around 15% of our calories to come from fat, because oatmeal and chickpeas and quinoa, all of those foods are around 15% fat. And of course, those foods are fine to eat. Now, does that mean we can never eat any higher fat plant foods like nuts or avocados or seeds? No, it doesn't mean that at all. And we talk more about that in the course. And then you'll also learn to tell how fatty a product is. Could you go back one slide just for me there? Thanks so much, Dr. Shobha. In other words, what percentage of calories in a product is coming from fat? And it's really a quick calculation based on the fact that there are 9 calories in 1 gram of fat. So no matter the source of the fat, if it's chicken fat or cheese fat or avocado fat, whether it's animal fat or plant fat, all fat has 9 calories per gram. So in the course, you'll learn the quick calculation to use in order to determine the percentage of calories coming from fat in a product. And if the product has saturated fat, we also use that same calculation to determine how much of the fat is saturated. Okay, next is a picture of Daiya cheddar cheese. This is kind of a popular dairy-free cheese that's on the market. And when we start with the ingredient list first, as we always should, we see that the first ingredient there is Daiya's oat cream blend. And then we see coconut oil there highlighted in yellow, which is the second ingredient. And that is a big red flag because coconut products are really high in saturated fat. So, of course, it would be your decision whether or not you put this item back on the shelf right now because of the ingredient list. But just for practice, let's calculate the percentage of fat. And when we do that, we find out that these cheese slices are over 64% fat. In other words, over 64% of the calories in this product are coming from fat. And when we calculate the saturated fat, we find the same percentage. So these cheese slices are not only very high in fat, all of the fat is coming from saturated fat, which is highly inflammatory. Other things you'll learn in this lesson is a time-saving hack in which you can use your phone to quickly tell you the answer about how much fat is in a product. And you'll learn about trans fats too, which are hydrogenated oils. And even though our government cracked down on those several years ago, they are still in some products. Peanut butter, you'll see trans fats there. Tortilla shells are another product that almost always contain hydrogenated oil. And then I'll show you this labeling loophole for a product. How could a product say 0 fat and 0 calories when in fact that product does contain fat and calories? I'll show you how they get around that. And then next we have a lesson rather on sodium or salt. And sodium is essential for human function, but we get everything we need naturally through the plant foods on a whole food plant-based diet. Now, many of you, if you're following an SOS-free diet, you don't consume any salt at all, while others only allow for minimal amounts. So we will be talking about the current salt recommendations. And you know where our biggest source of dietary sodium, 70%, is coming from. Oops, could you back up just one for me, Dr. Shobha? Thank you. So the biggest source of sodium is coming from processed foods and meats and restaurants. So in the class, we talk all about that. We also talk about the different types of salt. What does it mean to stay low salt? We'll be discussing that. And we talk about the health concerns associated with consuming excess sodium too. And then we'll look at some products that are typically really high in sodium, such as frozen entrees and soups. Here's the frozen entree. This is Amy's Chinese noodles and veggies. We see that the sodium listed here by the blue arrow is 780 milligrams, which is really high, especially if your goal is to stay low salt. And again, you'll learn what that means in the course. Also, it's important to note here, you'll see my yellow highlight. The serving size there is 1 tray. And that's important to note because if there were 2 servings in this item and you're planning to eat the whole tray, then you would have to double the amounts of sodium and calories and sugars and all of that. So the next slide talks about how we will look at different products for an overall view of sugar, oil, and salt. This is a product here, no sugar added mint chip frozen dessert, which really attracts me because mint chip happens to be my favorite flavor. But when we read the ingredient list here, we see coconut milk, followed by oatmeal, and then coconut water, and then coconut oil, and then erythritol, which is an artificial sweetener. It's actually a sugar alcohol. Then we see chicory root extract, sunflower oil, more erythritol, and so on. So this product, for me personally, would stay on the shelf because of the oils and the erythritol, which is a very questionable sugar alcohol that Dr. Greger and the Cleveland Clinic advise us not to eat, this erythritol. So when we run the numbers on this product, we see that 81% of the calories in this product are coming from fat, with 59% of that fat being saturated fat. Now, the sodium is low at only 10 milligrams per serving, and there's no added sugar, right? They advertise it as no added sugar. However, they are using erythritol instead, which is a sugar alcohol. And in this case, it has 2 teaspoons per serving. And in the course, you will learn how to evaluate all of these things for yourself. The next lesson is on refined grains versus whole grains. And all grains start out as whole grains, right? And they're made up of 3 parts. The 2 outer layers are called the bran and the germ. And that's where all the nutrition lives, the fiber, the B vitamins, the antioxidants, the protein, the healthy fats, and the minerals like folate and iron. So it's the combination of all three layers that make grains such powerhouses for disease prevention. And on the next slide, we talk about refined grains are result when those two outer coatings get stripped from the grain, thereby removing all the nutrition. According to Whole Grain Council, refining a grain reduces at least 17 key nutrients from the grain. And then those refined grains are ground into flour. They can be chemically treated with bleach, and then vitamins and minerals are often added or sprayed back into the mix so they can legally label the product as enriched. And then additives and preservatives are often added to lengthen the shelf life. And refined flours are typically used in white bread, hot dog buns, pastas, pastries, cookies, cereals, pretzels, and so much more. And just because a package of wheat bread says wheat bread, just because a loaf of bread says wheat bread, does not mean that it's a whole grain. Oftentimes, a loaf of wheat bread is really an enriched, refined product that has been colored dark in order to appear more nutritious. So, in the course, you'll learn how to distinguish between whole grains and refined grains and why that matters so much to our health. You'll also learn about more crafty claims when it comes to grains like multigrain and 7 grain. What does all of that mean? And then we'll talk about the different types of flours, such as durum wheat flour and semolina flour. Are those whole grains? Well, it depends on the product. So here's a picture of Barilla elbow pasta. We see the ingredients there are um, a semolina wheat and durum wheat flour. So would this be a whole grain or a refined grain? And the course, it teaches you why this particular product is not a whole grain. But on the next slide, we see the whole wheat elbow pasta from Walmart, which is indeed a whole grain. So you will learn how to differentiate what that means. And we'll be looking at a variety of other products too, breads and crackers and cake mixes and so much more. And then there's also a lesson on artificial sweeteners, which they seem like attractive alternatives to sugar because they contain 0 calories and they are intensely sweet, 200 to 700 times sweeter than table sugar. And these sweeteners are used in soft drinks and candies and jellies and pretty much anything labeled sugar free. And in the course, you'll learn more about the popular brands that are out there today, like Equal and Splenda and Sweet and Low. And then on the next slide, we will also cover some of the side effects and health concerns associated with these fake sweeteners. And we'll look at those sugar alcohols like xylitol and sorbitol. And then we'll discuss some healthier choices, even while pointing out that even healthy sugars should be eaten sparingly, right? That just because the sugar is healthy does not give us unlimited reign to eat as much of that product as we want. And we'll look at several sugar-free products too on the shelves out there. Like the next slide shows Skinny Girl's fat-free, sugar-free poppy seed dressing. And then there's Smucker's sugar-free jam, Diet Pop, any type of diet cola, and then sugar-free Crystal Light. So what are the manufacturers using instead of sugar in those products? That's why label reading is so important. And then there's a lesson on food dyes, preservatives, and additives where we talk about the current FDA system and we talk about which products undergo safety reviews and which do not. Many products do not undergo safety reviews because manufacturers are allowed to determine the safety on their own in many cases. We'll talk about the packaged foods, how they contain thousands of dyes and preservatives and additives, and new ones are being developed each day. Artificial flavoring, which is man-made products. Natural flavorings could be any type of highly processed animal or plant byproduct. And then we talk a lot about dyes because commonly used food dyes, if you could go back just a second there, Dr. Shobha. Thank you. These dyes are really synthetic petroleum-derived chemicals such as blue 1, blue 2, green 3, red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6. Now, red 3 has recently been banned here in the United States, but that does not take effect until January of 2027. And those food dyes are usually targeted toward children. Sometimes they're referred to as the rainbow of risks due to the increased risk that they pose for our children, especially with hyperactivity and attention disorders, which is really concerning when you see how many dye-colored candies and frostings and cereals and beverages that our kids are exposed to. But it's not just the kids' foods, too. You will see yellow number 5 in pretty much any jar of pickles. So yeah, here's a package of Fruity Pebbles. If you could go back to that one. So the first 3 ingredients here are refined rice, sugar, and oil. So the first 3 ingredients tell us that we probably would not consider this a very healthy product. But then you actually see artificial and natural flavors have been added as well. Red 40, yellow 6, yellow 5, blue 1, and BHA and BHT, which are chemicals with carcinogenic concerns. And then in the course, we talk more about BHA and BHT and carrageenan, which is an additive derived from seaweed, but there's controversy around it. We'll talk about aluminum and propylparaben and potassium bromate and other additives. And then I'll provide you links to 2 different lists of additives where you could explore these things more. We'd be here for months if we were to talk about every single additive or preservative. But I will link you to some lists that would be helpful. And then there's a lesson on how to spot hidden animal products in an ingredient list. And naturally, we want to avoid those if we're following a plant-based diet. And we'll look at several product examples as well. And then next, we'll put everything into practice. You're going to get a lot of practice as we go along through these lessons, and that will bolster your confidence with label reading. And you'll also get an overall PDF of all the tips that I provide for you, and also a business card sized little purse or wallet guide that you could use for quick reference when you're at the store. But most importantly, the bottom line is that label reading is crucial, right? To know what you're ingesting. If you want to make smart choices, you've got to read the label.
Like so, slow Peter. he's sitting on the keyboard and trying to. That's why it was going boop bloop bloop. Okay, there you go.
No, so back up 1. I was still on that. Okay. Back up to the bottom. There, yeah, there you go. So I just want to encourage everyone here because this might take a little time to get used to, but just with a couple of trips to the grocery store, it will all be worth the effort because then you'll know at a glance if a product should go in your cart or if it should stay on the shelf. And then the next slide is just that even more important than that is that we focus on low-fat, whole plant foods and that we eat as close to nature as possible and that we look for products that are minimally processed. Yeah, with a short, recognizable ingredient list. And then to limit the amount of packaged foods in your diet. So lastly, if you have any questions for me, this is my email address is there, sidnotter@sidnotter.com, or my website. There's lots of free stuff on my website. Feel free to take a look there. But we are here today to promote the bundle, the Vegan Health Bundle. As Dr. Shobha said, there's a link in the show notes where you can get that bundle only through March 10th, though. So it's a very time-limited offer. And my product, which sells for $39, this class sells for $39 on my website, and the whole bundle is $49. You are getting a steal of a deal because there's 80 products in the bundle, not just my course, but lots of. Dr. Shobha has a really very good guide in there about naturally lowering your blood pressure. We talked about that the other day, and very good information for anybody that has high blood pressure and how quickly hypertension can be reversed. It's just incredible. So you'll learn all sorts of things in the bundle, in addition to the thousands of recipes that are there.
Yes. And thank you, Sid, for enlightening us with the label reading tips. And as you can see, like a lot of people might thinking that they're buying healthy products, but even like you pointed out to some of the products which you considered healthy, but like it's so crucial for us to know the label reading. Otherwise, we can be fooled so easily. And so that's why how valuable your class is. So as you can see, guys, this class is available in the bundle. So make sure that you download this class. And for that, like you need to purchase the bundle. We are putting the link to the bundle in the chat. So this is Sid links. So that you can buy the bundle. So make sure you download her course. And as Sid said, there are so many other things, some like recipes, cookbooks, videos. So many wonderful things are in the bundle. So thank you so much, Sid. Any last parting thoughts?
Life is too short to spend a lot of time on things that are preventable, health issues and problems and diseases that are 80% preventable. So you have more control over your health than you may have ever imagined.
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head, Sid. So yes, life is short, and we don't want to spend our time uh, experiencing or leading our life with diseases that are preventable. So thank you so much for that. And so looking forward to your course, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Dr. Shobha. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.